Welcome back to Wednesdays with Wilfred. On this special Black History Month edition, we have the educational leader and Louis Riel School Division's Principal of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Anti-Racism Services, the Faculty of Education grad, Michelle Jean-Paul. Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle. And I just want to jump into it. As a first-generation Canadian, how has the university or your upbringing made inroads to what you're doing today?
Thanks for having me. And that's a great question. I think as an educator, coming from a newcomer background with, my parents both having immigrated at different points in their lives, with very different immigration stories in both of their families, it's made me really attuned to the need to be aware of difference and how difference might appear in classrooms. And so as a teacher, not trying not to bring my biases and my perspectives to everything, but creating space for kids to bring their best selves out and to get to know them as people and create spaces where they feel a sense of belonging.
And does it help that you grew up in Winnipeg, whereby diversity is everywhere we look, and even more so now in the classroom, in the university? And how important is it to you that young Black women and men get to see you, a woman of color, a Black woman, in positions of power?
Yeah, I think when I reflect back on my experiences in school, my sisters and I were often the only non-white kids around, right? And that creates conditions. And there's a lot of reasons why I think I had a positive schooling experience. And I think a big part of that was having been born here and understanding, and having friends who understand this place in the school system in different ways. And my dad was a teacher in the first school I attended. And so that gave me a couple of privileges, my first memory of school is sitting in the staff room, and it's back in the day when teachers used to smoke in there and like being fed cookies. So for me, I knew that school was a place where I belonged, but there are a lot of experiences along the way that taught me differently. And so that was kind of the area that I pursued in my master's, looking at the academic achievement and school engagement of Black youth in Winnipeg schools, because I understood that my experience wasn't the same as most of the other Black kids that I was connecting with along the way. So when I think about like the impact of me being in a position of leadership, I'm where I am because of the Black educators from the generation before me, people like my dad, John Jack, Jean-Joseph Ismay, and the list goes on and on and on of tremendous Black educators that we had here in the city. And then there was this void, and we weren't being renewed in the system quite so much. And when I think about the impact, I think about the first day I was vice principal at Garden City Collegiate, and first day of school, I have about 20, 30 Black kids approach me. And some of the kids in grade 12 had gone and collected every single Black kid around the building. And they said, we're the Black kids, you're the Black principal, you need to know us. And I think so many times in my career, just my physical presence has made up for what my title might represent to people. And so seeing this Black face behind that door that says principal creates a sense of connection and maybe even aspirations that this is possible for me as well.
It's incredible. And you've touched on so many important things, especially representation. I myself, going through the school system, I don't think I ever had a Black teacher or professor. So that is impactful in so many ways. And in segueing into that, you're working on your PhD at the University of Manitoba. Congratulations, with a focus on biases when it comes to hiring practices. So what do you think we need to overcome to get rid of some of these biases that are sometimes explicit or implicit in various industries when it comes to hiring?
Absolutely. I think the first step is acknowledging that biases exist. There's a lot of literature that talks about the fact that we're socialized in a racist environment, a sexist environment, a patriarchal, homophobic environment. All of those things are innate in us. And so it's important for us to acknowledge them so that we can wrestle with them and move on from them. So for me, that's kind of that acknowledgement is key piece in not, I'm colorblind, or no, I believe in all people, right? Like we don't get anywhere with those kind of mentalities. And so acknowledging the fact that, yeah, I grew up in this society and I have these beliefs and I need to push myself on them to create more inclusive spaces, to me is, the main ingredient when we're looking at how do we switch things up in systems.
Once again, you're doing extremely impactful work that will be seen for generations to come. It's already being felt. And one of the amazing things is you are leading the way, and congratulations on your new role as the Louis Riel School Division Principal for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Anti-Racism Service. So, what is it, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you like to accomplish with this role and in the future as you continue to break down barriers?
Well, thank you for the big build up on that too. I think when I
Well
think about
deserved.
my dream, yeah, my dream for this role is really to shift the conversation. And I think that, it's something I've tried to do in education, but, the title, the position, the publicity of this position gives me additional power and privilege to push this conversation forward in ways that, as a school principal or as a teacher, or even as a community organizer, I'm not quite able to do. And so I think for me, it's about leveraging my position to create as many spaces for different voices so that I'm not the spokesperson for diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I'm creating spaces for people who belong to these diverse groups around the table to feel like they have equal say and equal voice.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And once again, thank you for sharing and creating impact in our city, in our schools. And I know you're going to continue to do amazing things. On behalf of the University of Manitoba Alumni Relations team, thank you. All the best with your thesis, and we'll be cheering you on.
Thank you very much.